Hello guys, let's talk about ratios. So ratios is when you are comparing two quantities. You can divide something into two parts. For example, 1:1. You read this as 1:1. That's an example of a ratio. Or you can divide things into, let's say, 20 parts as to 10 parts. This is also an example of a ratio. So you must reduce this to its lowest terms. So let's divide by the highest common factor. Let's divide by 10 here. 10 into 10 is 1. 10 into 20 is 2. So this ratio is actually 2:1. Let's say you are given another one. Let's say 21:35. The highest common factor here is a 7. A 7 can get into there and it can also get into there. So 7 into 21, that's 3. 7 into 35, that's 5. So this ratio is, in its simplest form, 3:5. Okay, so that was a brief introduction to ratios. We want to talk about examples where you will be dividing in ratios. So let's start. Example 1. Divide 200 in the ratio 2:3. So whenever you are using ratios to divide to two or more parts, you have to find the total first. So the total of the ratios, you were given 2:3, so you say 2 plus 3 is equals to 5. This is the total. We call it the total, or you can call it 100%, or you can call it one whole. In this case, it is 5/5. So these will be fractions of these. Now we'll be using, if you remember, direct proportion. That's what we'll be using to finish this. So we said 5 is 100%, or is the entire amount. So 5 is equals to 200 rands. What is part of that? Let's say 2. If 5 is equals to 200, 2 is going to be less. So if you remember, when it's less, you create a fraction here. And if you say less, it's the smaller that goes on top. 2/5 times 200 rand. 5 into 5, 1. 5 into 20, 4 into 0, 0, 40 times 2. That's 80 rand. So the 2, this part is equal to 80 rand. Let's do the other one. Remember, 5 is the 100%. 5 is equals to 200 rand. Now let's test the 3. 3 is going to be less. This is direct proportion. So when less the smaller number on top, 3/5 times 200 rand. 5 into 5, 1. 5 into 20, 4. 5 into 0, 0. 40 times 3, we get 120 rand. So the ratio 2:3, when you are splitting your 200 rand, this part, the 2, you are dividing it as 80 rand as to 120 rand. The 2 is 80 rand, 3 is 120 rand, and the total 5 is 200 rand. If you say 2 plus 3, that's 5. If you say 180 plus 120, that's 200. So Kelvin, Jesse, and Jabu divide 60 candy in the ratio 3:4:5 respectively. Respectively means if this one has been mentioned first, the first number belongs to him. If this one is mentioned second, the second number belongs to him. Third, the third number belongs to him. How many candy does each one get? So remember, we should always find the total first when you are dealing with divisions or sharing in a ratio. The total of the ratios. Remember, we are doing 3:4:5. So you add them. 3 plus 4 plus 5 is equals to 12. So this is the total, or the 100%, or the 1, or the 12/12. So we are told that the total number of candy they are dividing is 60. So 12 is equals to 60 candy. Remember, from what we're saying, these are the parts in which they are going to divide, but if you add this together, it will give you 12, and 12 means the total. And here the total number of candy is 60, so 12 is equals to 60. This part is going to be a part for Jabu in 60, and this part will be the part for Jesse in 60, and this part will be the part for Kelvin in 60. So 12 is equals to 60 candy. Now 3 belongs to Kelvin. Kelvin. 12 and 3, which one will be less? 3 parts will expect to get less candy. This is direct proportion. So you say 3, when you say less, the smaller number goes on top. 3 over 12 times 60. 12 into 12, 1. 12 into 60, that's 5. 3 times 5, that's 15 candy. So Kelvin will get 15 candy. So these 3 parts, or 3 out of 12, is 15 candy. Okay, next, we know that 12 is representing 60 candy. 12 is the total of the ratios, 60 is the total of the candy, so we can compare them as totals. That's what ratios are for. Now, who's next? Jesse. Jesse is number 2. Her part is 4. So when we say 4 parts, do we expect to get more candy or less? It's less candy. So when you say less, the smaller number goes on top. So you create a fraction, this 4 over 12 times 60. 12 into 12, 1. 12 into 60, that's 5. 5 times 4, you get 20 candy. So Jesse will get 20 candy. Next, 12 is equals to 60 candy. This is the relationship. Now, who's last? Jabu. Jabu has 5 parts of the total ratio. 5 is still less than 12, so we write less. And when you say less, the smaller number goes on top. 5 over 12 times 60. 12 into 12, 1. 12 into 60, that's 5. 5 times 5 is 25 candy. So Jabu get 25 candy. You can even cross-check 25 plus 15, that's 40, plus 20, that's 60. So here is a bonus example. Divide 100 Rand in the ratio 7:13. So whenever you're dealing with division, the first thing is to look for total. 7:13. So the total of the ratios, you say 7 plus 13, and you get 20. That's the total, or the 100%, or the 1 or. So 20, the full total of ratio is going to represent the full amount. So that's the relationship. So 20 is equals to 100 Rand. What is 7? 7 is equals to less. When you say it's equals to less, the smaller number will go on top when you create a fraction. 7 over 20 times 100 Rand is equals to 20 into 20, it's 1. 20 into 100, that's 5. 7 times 5, that's 35. So the 7 parts will be 20 parts is the full amount, is equals to 100 Rand, the full amount. So 13 parts is equals to 20 parts equals to 100 rand. 13 is going to be less than 100 rand. So if it's less, 13 will go on top when you create your fraction. 20 into 21, 20 into 100, that's 5. 5 times 13, that's 6.5 times 10, that's 65 rand. So the ratio 7:13. So the ratio 7:13, the part 7 is 35 rand, then the 13 is 65 rand. This is how you divide 100 rand in the ratio 7:13. It's 35 rands for this, 65 rands for this. Now, let's talk about increasing or decreasing something using ratios. Example 1, part A. Increase 100 rand in the ratio 5:6. Now, when you are increasing and decreasing using ratios, you don't find the total. The number which you are given, for example, here they are saying increase. 5 is smaller than 6, so you'll be increasing from 5 going to 6. So this 5 will represent the 100 rand, and the 6 will represent the new number. So this is what we write. We actually write 100 rand is equals to 5 parts. Then the 6, is it going to be more or less? It's going to be more. So when you say more, the bigger number will go on top. 6 divided by 5 times 100. 5 into 5, that's 1. 5 into 10, that's 2. 5 into 0, that's 0. 20 times 6, that's 120. So when you're increasing, you write 100 rand has been increased to 120 rand. Part B, increase 100 rand in the ratio 3:7. Remember, when you're increasing and decreasing, you don't find the total. So when you're increasing, this part is representing the 100 rand. It should be increased to 7 parts, but in the ratio 3:7. So this is what you do. The 100 rand is the 3 parts. It has to be increased to 7 parts. So 7 is going to be more. So when it's more, you write your fraction 7/3. When you say more, more goes on top. Okay, when you say more, more goes on top. When you say less, less will go on top. So let's multiply this by 100. 233.33 rands. So when you're increasing 3:7, you have increased the 100 rand to 233.33 rand. Increase 100 rand in the ratio 1:3. So this part which is going to be increased is this part. So 100 rand is equals to 1. What about 3 parts? It's going to be more. So when you say more, the bigger number on top, multiply by 100. 3 times 100, this will give you 300 rand. So the ratio was 1:3. You are increasing from 1 to 3. So we say 100 rand has been increased to 300 rand. Example number 2. So let us finish with examples where you'll be reducing. Part A, reduce 100 rand in the ratio 3:1. So this 3 is going to be reduced to 1. So this 3 is representing the 100 rand. So Our 100 rand is representing 3. What about 1? 1 should be less. As you can see, the 100 rand will be reduced. When you say less, the smaller number on top times 100. So this will be a third of 100. This will be 33.33. After you've reduced, it was a reduction. We said reduce 3:1. So your 100 rand was reduced to 33.33 rands. Reduce 100 rand in the ratio 6:5. So 6 will be reduced to 5. So 6 is representing the 100 rand, which will be reduced to that. So 100 rand is equals to 6. What about 5? 5 is less than 6. So as you can see, it will be the 100 rand will be reduced. So when you say less, the smaller number on top, 500, 5 times 100, that's 500, divided by 6, you get 83.33. So we're saying reduce in the ratio 6:5. So what were you reducing? The 100 rand was reduced to 83.33 rands. Reduce 100 rand in the ratio 7:3. So 7 is representing the 100 rand. 3 is representing the final reduced amount. Part C, 100 rand is representing the 7. What about the 3? 3 will be less than 7. So you write less. When you write less, the smaller number on top, 3/7 times 100, that's 300 divided by 7. So we said reduce in the ratio 7:3. So your 100 rand was reduced to 42.86 rand.